here and right now. Please welcome Mr. Kevin Tolly with a big round of applause.
Hello, good day, thanks for joining us today. I'm Kevin Tolly, founder of the Tolly Group. We are US based and we are a leading global provider of third-party testing and validation services in the ICT industry. We provide technical proof of marketing claims for vendors such as Huawei. We've been doing this for over 35 years. We have produced close to 2,000 reports for 200 different vendors. I'm here today to speak to you because we just recently finished testing Huawei's Xinghe Intelligent Unified SASE solution, and that's the topic of the discussion today. So let's take a moment to see where we're at right now. We're witnessing a digital transformation in the enterprise. With that, we're seeing massive changes in maturity for AI that you're seeing all around the hall today, cloud computing, network virtualization, many technologies. And so what is that doing? When it comes to the enterprise, when it comes to multi-branch environments, it's making it very challenging to provide levels of security, network and application performance, ease of use, operations and management. This is changing that whole model. And what we're seeing here, what we'll be talking about today, is a way to solve that problem using the Huawei solution. So we looked at the Huawei Xinghe solution, comparing it to another leading provider to get a good contrast. And we looked, as you can see on the slide here, we looked at security because you have to have security for branch connectivity. Zero Trust is certainly a part of that, providing the ZTNA to those clients. SD-WAN being the flexible structure that we have in order to deploy the networks. And with all of that, you need to have intelligent operations and management, O&M, to be able to provide management for the environment. So we'll be looking at test results, again, of a test we just recently completed. Everything I talk about today is from our Tolly report, number 225117. That's available from Huawei and also at our website at www.tolly.com. So let's take a look at this test. So for this test, we actually built a network with Huawei where we have elements, all the key elements, not only of the enterprise headquarters, but also of the branch environment. So taking a look at this from a component point of view, we see at the top, we have the iMaster NCE campus, which is the network element, and key here is its integration with the security, Cancun OP security analysis. That's going to be key throughout this presentation, that we don't have separate controllers for network and for security. We have a unified controller, unified and integrated. You'll be hearing that throughout this presentation. And as we look at this, we say, well, what's unified, what's integrated? It's those controllers, that unified controller, working together, communicating with the firewalls and the cloud engine switches, and most importantly, the high-sec endpoint, the EDR, the endpoint detection and response. So we're going all the way from the center of the network out to the edge. And that can be the headquarters network, it could be a single branch office connected by the internet, could be multiple branch offices connected via MPLS. We're looking in all places, we're seeing the firewalls, the switches, the high-sec endpoints, and they're all working together. So this is a different way of looking at the same architectural diagram. Now, there's a lot here. I'm not going to go through all of this. I feel this slide is important just so you can understand that there is a lot here. There's a lot of elements. Very impressive how all of this works together. I'll give you two things to take away from this slide. One on the top line, one on the second line. Unified and integrated, right? Unified controllers integrated at level after level, from the center controller to the firewall, the switch, and to the endpoint. And that's very, very important. That helps in terms of capabilities, and it helps in terms of the unified management. And what you'll see here, cloud, network, edge, endpoint. Those are all the elements you need to be able to say, truthfully, that something's unified and integrated. Huawei has it. The vendor that we compared to did not have that level at all. So let's move to the test. So we did a fairly comprehensive test. I've got about 4 or 5 slides just to give you excerpts from that test. And so what we're showing here are actually excerpts from the report that we published just a few days ago. So when it's easy to make claims, but what's important is proving the claims. So what we have here for the next few slides are those proof points. So the first one, security protection. We have to be able to secure an environment, and the first line of security is the firewall. So we tested Huawei versus, in this case, Fortinet, looking at samples that were publicly available from Malware Bazaar, which is what we commonly use for doing firewall testing. And looking at that, we found that across multiple tests, Huawei was able to recognize, detect, and stop 95% of that malware. When we looked at the Fortinet solution, we were looking at rates closer to 75%, from 71 to 79. So if you give them the benefit of the doubt, you have 80%, so much, much lower than Huawei. And while not shown here, we also did tests of unknown threats. We talked about AI. AI is also getting involved with ransomware and threats. And so we have AI that can create threats that have never been seen before. So for this test, and again, these full results are in our paper, we used commonly available tools to create threats. These zero-day threats were stopped 100% by Huawei and not at all by the competing vendor. So we have not only the benefits of the traditional threat detection and stopping, but also an improvement in terms of being able to stop threats that are being generated by AI, which is now yet another issue. Looking again at security from another aspect, we have this cloud, network, edge, endpoint, collaboration. So integration, collaboration, unified. So we have here in this particular test, I know it's difficult to see, but we deliberately put a threat into the network. It was detected by the Huawei EDR component. This threat existence was communicated up from the cloud network to the controller, and they were able to isolate that endpoint, remove it from the environment, and effectively immunize the entire network against that threat. Looking at, let's say in this case, Fortinet as a representative of the industry, we did not have that, we did not find the unified approach. Everything had to be done separately. They could only analyze compromised hosts on threat information, and the local server cannot independently analyze threats. Needed to be sent up to another component to do that. So it was, for the competing vendor, it was a lack of that capability. So let's move to the second item on my list, which is ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, on the intranet, right? We don't know who's allowed to get what resources, so you need the ZTNA. And here too, we have one client, one unified converged platform. We always have some type of endpoint on our clients. Why? Because we're detecting malware. We have one there for security. But what about network access? We need that too. But what you don't want is to start having to load and manage multiple clients on multiple endpoint clients on the same endpoint. So looking here, what does Huawei do? With Huawei, we had a unified client where the EDR, the endpoint detection and response client, would be used for traditional antivirus functions, but also would implement the ZTNA function on the client. So single client simplifies deployment, simplifies management. When you compare that, in this case, to the industry represented by Fortinet, we have in the case again, 2 clients and 2 controllers. So each client would be speaking with a different controller, one related to the antivirus and traditional security aspects, and a different one related to the ZTNA Zero Trust network access. So here, once again, unified, converge the Xinghe solution with the unified client. So the element of the remote branch office is the SD-WAN, right? The software-defined wide area networking. That's what it's all about. And you need to have the flexibility, whether you're a large enterprise or a service provider, to deploy and manage these environments simply. What we found here too, as you can see on the chart, is that the Huawei Xinghe supported multiple deployment models. It could deploy the SD-WAN using URL-based, zero touch, very important, automatic overlay orchestration, lots of different ways. Look at this, routing domain orchestration, hub and spoke, full mesh. So what does that mean? It means whatever you need, it can be done using the Xinghe environment. And you can see automatic orchestration of up to 16 hubs. That's very, very impressive. When we looked at the rest of the industry, represented again in this test by the Fortinet solution, we could see what it could not do. It could not provide URL-based zero touch. It could not provide the level of automatic orchestration that we saw in Xinghe. It did not support user-defined topologies and does not support routing domains. So with Huawei, you can do all of those things. With other leading industry solutions, it's simply not available, and you have to find a different way around that. And finally, you need to manage all of this, right? You need intelligent O&M, intelligent operations and management. Again, these are all excerpts from the report that is available on our site and from Huawei. Visualization is always key. We always work better with visual information and keys. So an important part of what Huawei offers is the visualization, the maps. We've seen in some previous presentations that these networks can get very, very complicated. We can see it overlaid in the NCE master in a GIS map. We can see it overlaid as a logical map as we go from node to node. So these are all different ways to help the operations, the network management team be able to make sure the network stays up, and if there's issues, be able to isolate those. That's not something we were able to find with the other vendors. So in conclusion, we see here that the Xinghe management solution, the Xinghe unified SASE solution, allows us to integrate. It allows us to integrate network and security. It allows us to integrate with firewalls, with switches, and endpoint clients. Very, very important, reaching all the way out to the endpoint. Our test showed, looking at firewalls and threat scenarios, that it provided that solid protection. When we looked at the SD-WAN element, we saw that it provided easy and flexible orchestration. We could take different ways, different methods to deliver that orchestration. And just in the prior slide, we saw the O&M features, the operations and management, the visualization, looking at either as GIS maps or looking at as a logical set of nodes in the network. And everything I've talked about today, you can find in our Tolly report, 225117, and get all of that detail and a lot more. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kevin Tolly, for your wonderful presentation. Now is the time we would actually like to give the certificate, for the Xinghe Intelligent Unified SASE solution. At this moment, I would like to invite onto the stage Mr. Richard Wu, President of Security Product Domain, Huawei Data Communication Product Line. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Richard Wu. And feel free to take photos of this momentous occasion and show as well. Yes. And another round of applause. Congratulations, thank you so much. We will continue with the celebrations with another SASE Memorandum of Understanding with SONA. And as we prepare the stage, we just wanted to say congratulations one more time to the, and thank you so much for the Tolly group for that wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Very thorough, very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And of course, it's wonderful that